This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call the twilight.
I got love for you, no lie. I give my best, I try. Someday we'll touch the sky. You're an angel, little baby. Wipe all your tears away. I know it's been crazy, but keep your head up high.
Foot chase through the projects, dodging foreign objects. Street knowledge, I should've went to college. Odds stacked against me, surviving off instinct. 3 blocks from the precinct. Lil' homie caught a case, others lost family members. Product of his environment, projects produce violence in the middle of the streets, cause that's how we eat. Just a rap about the trap don't mean I ain't about peace.
We must stand together.
Oh, I hate that. If y'all ever listen to it, I cringe every time I hear that. I'm just gonna tell you. But you're listening to the Tampa Bay Breakfast Club. I am Kiana. And we have sister, auntie, Betty Davis. You want to tell the people good morning, auntie?
Good morning.
Pull the mic up.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming back.
Yes. Now,
last week earlier this week we had an amazing show.
Yes, we did. But wait, we're brought to you by the New Image Project, better known as. Because we are redefining.
What's cool?
Because smart.
It's the new
Gangsta.
lady.
Yes. Now I'm going to.
Now you know.
Now you know. Now, okay, here we go. A shot to me. Right. Because I wanted to do like this real elaborate like introduction. Because we have like this amazing lady here. Right. Not only is she my auntie, but you know, she is one of the most fierce women I've ever met in my life.
Yes. Yes. And inspirational.
Right.
People called and texted me about earlier this week.
About
Who's that? What's that? Who's that? When's she coming back? What? I swear. Who does she represent?
herself.
I mean,
No.
you know, we do get texts and calls.
We do.
You know,
Inboxes.
but it's rare that I get one while the show is going on.
Yeah.
It was, hey, what you what? It was amazing. It was great.
I mean, because you're looking at somebody who was in front line of like a lot of stuff that we talk about history, the things that changed the nation. I would almost say you really fought for, like, we talk about revolutionaries who never got out of prison, but the ones who did, I can almost guarantee she was at the front line fighting for them to get out. All right. Like, and auntie, like, I can go in, but it's her story to tell. And so, like, tell them some of the people that you actually even fought for, auntie.
Well, one of the things we did was we had to support our political prisoners. And one of the political prisoners that we supported, many of you may not have heard of him, was Matula Shakur. Now, I know you know the Shakur name. You know the Shakur family. But you may not have known that Matula Shakur's only crime was that he was able to show that you can use acupuncture to cure heroin addiction. And then he was incarcerated for the RICO laws, the same RICO laws they used against the people in Cop City. As if he was a gangster, yes. What you may not know is that many of the people in New York City recognize that the hospitals, like the schools, like the police departments, like the agricultural industry, have no respect for the community of people of African descent. And at one point in New York City, they took over a hospital in the Bronx. And Brother Shakur, many of the others who were in the Young Lords, which was a group of warriors on the front lines, just as the Black Panthers were, the Young Lords represented the Spanish-speaking community of Puerto Ricans. And together, they took over a hospital that had absolutely no business being in operation in any community. And they transformed it. And one of the things they had was a drug rehabilitation program, which at the time, you know, they tried to tell us that methadone was a cure for heroin. All methadone was, it took the money for drugs out of the so-called other gangster communities, and you let the government take over the drug business.
Mm-hmm.
And I have always felt that it was not so much that they were concerned about people in poor neighborhoods being addicted to any kind of substance, but they wanted to be the pushers.
Yes.
And so the government, the gang got the profits from giving you methadone to get you off of heroin. And it was tried and true that the whole issue of this using just a needle, acupuncture, all right? And so it was like a double crime. First of all, you criminalized a warrior who was a doctor, whose methodology has been proven all over the world. And he was in prison for more than 50 years. And the judge said when he came up for parole the last time, I'm not going to release you until you're near death. And of course, maybe there is a deity because this judge died before Matula did. But shortly after the people were able to free him from prison, he did transition. This was our geniuses are the ones that are, in these prisons. We still have Mamiya in prison, as you know. We also have the former H. Rap Brown, now known as the Imam Jamil Al-Amin, is still in prison. And you have to look at this because the United States has more people incarcerated than any country in the world. If you look at the statistics of the people of African descent who are in these prisons, and when they were placed in these prisons, it's right after we had our revolution. And so they were making sure that there would not be a follow-up revolution behind the first revolution. And one of the things I'd like to say is one of the people, I think I mentioned it last week, if you Google her, Queen Mother Moore, she was a Garveyite. I never met Garvey, but I felt that I had met Garvey because she was a true follower and believer in the principles of Garvey, Marcus Garvey. One of the things that Marcus Garvey understood is that within this capitalist country, there are certain industries and certain institutions which you must control.
Mm-hmm.
And for many of us, when we saw what happened after the attempt of, Brown versus the Board of Education, we could see that this country, the rulers of the economics of this country had no intention of ever letting us have self-agency. And that's a very important word because when it comes to the African people who came from Africa who are in this country, or taken from Africa who are in this country, and the people who were here first, these people who are from Europe can never afford to acknowledge their role here.
Right.
Because they came here on ships to plunder.
Now we're gonna have to put a pin right there because it is 8:00, and at the 8:00 hour, we have to take a break. But we're coming back 7 minutes after the hour. We're gonna talk to Auntie Betty. We have a caller. We're gonna talk to the people from the Heritage Festival, the Black Heritage Festival that's coming in on April 26th. So stay tuned. Tag a friend, tell a friend. We shall be back 7 minutes after the hour.
60 years ago, electronics pioneer Gordon Moore made a forecast that he thought might last for a decade. But today, Moore's law describing improvements in IT still works in essence, if not detail. I'm asking how microchips keep getting better and what tech may be around the corner.
This is the BBC World Service, the world's radio station.
On the newsroom with me, Janat Jalil. The US says
is on hold.
And just like that, guess what? We are back. Welcome to the 8 o'clock hour. And you're listening to the Tampa Bay Breakfast Club. And I'm Kiana. I know you said you was waiting on me to introduce myself. Totally forgot for just a second, right? Right. And we have until you got to introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Betty Davis, and I was born in Tampa, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in Tampa, Florida in 1944. And you might say our family was a part of the Great Migration to escape some of the issues that people in Tampa, Florida had against people who did not look like them. And I ended up, like many Africans, leaving this part of the country known as the South in New York City. And one of the reasons we left was shortly after the war, there were still jobs in New York. And the interesting thing about the history of Africans in this continent is that wherever we go, we make a difference.
Yeah.
You look at the inventions coming out of slavery and how much of them are due to the Africans who came here. And I want to emphasize, we were not brought to this country because we were a problem. We were brought here because we had skills.
Because we were the solution.
You were the solution to the problem of capitalist economics on this continent that they had taken from another group of people who had a whole system of life based on expecting something from the earth and giving back to the earth. They had a life that was in harmony with nature and the earth, which has been disrupted and has been destroyed. So no culture that the people who came here and took this continent was at war with them. Quite the opposite. They brought the war, they brought the death with them. They brought the diseases that created epidemics with them. And I think it's important to understand all of these legacies in our culture. What it means is we still have an opportunity to change things and to make them better.
Change things and make them better.
There's always change. But the question is it a change for better? Is it a positive change that supports human life and supports human growth? And no culture can exist without reciprocity. In other words, goodwill, just simple goodwill.
And while we're talking about goodwill, I have a caller on the line.
Okay.
We have David from the Heritage Festival. David, can you hear us?
Oh, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, and so we have you on a phone call, and then once we hang out with you, we're gonna call Jim Brown as well. Can you tell the people a little bit about the Heritage Festival? I know it's April 26th, correct?
Yes, it's actually April 26th and 27th, Saturday and Sunday. It's a 2-day music festival, and we also have some exciting villages inside of the festival as well. For example, we have a great children's village. They're going to be doing some face painting, double dutch, arts and crafts. We have an Arthur's village, artist village, a technology village where they're going to be doing STEM research and also robotic activities as well. And there's also a gaming contest that's going to be happening in there also. So along with the music festival, there's plenty of things to do for the young ones when they come out with their parents. And also, the children 12 and under get in for free.
Okay.
So don't worry about that. What you're going to do with your kids, bring them with you. That's what it's all about, is bringing the family together.
Can you tell me, tell the people what time the festival actually starts?
Yes, the gates open on both days at 12 o'clock. And everything really starts going on around 1. So the DJ starts playing and ramping everybody up. And then actually on Sunday, we have a lot of gospel going on early in the day as well. So you can come and still get your praise and worship on and not feel bad if you didn't make it to the brick and mortar that morning, because we are definitely going to keep you lifted that morning on Sunday morning.
And can you tell them, like, what are some of the artists that they can look forward to coming on these 2 days?
Oh, sure. On Saturday, we have a host of local artists. And then after the local artists, we're kicking off with Mr. Brown, who you'll be speaking with shortly with his great band Brick, old school funk band. So got a lot of people looking forward to that. Then we'll have Eric Darius, local talent that's going to be international saxophone player. And also after him, we will have Full Force. And if you remember the movie House Party, you remember the brothers that were on there. So they'll be joining us. And then we'll kick it off or finish it off with the Boney James at night on Saturday. And then on Sunday, we have another great lineup. We have Jeff Bradshaw and his friends, which is bringing Raheem Devon and Eric Roberson. Then we have Morris Day in the Time, and everybody loves Morris Day in the Time. So, yes, so we have a great lineup this year.
That's really good. So, if you could leave the people with anything before I call Jim Brown, what would you leave them with?
Get your tickets. So they are selling out fast. If you go to Tampa Bay, BlackHeritageFestival.org, or just Google Tampa Bay Black Heritage Festival, they'll pop right up. Get your tickets. We are moving along with this, and it's, we're going to be having a great family event. So I'm looking forward to seeing everybody, and you'll see me riding around on the golf cart, and just trying to get things, make sure everything's in flow and happening, and looking forward to having all the public out there. It's going to be nice.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And then we shall see you on the 26th.
All right. Look forward to seeing you.
All right. You have a great day.
You too.
Nice.
Yes. Now you talk while
The Black Heritage Festival in Tampa. That's a big thing going on.
Yeah, I don't know what year this is. I should have
Yes,
asked.
it's definitely been a big thing in Tampa. Big shouts out to all our Tampa listeners. The Heritage Festival, the 26th and the 27th. Make sure you get there. And we call him Jim Brown right now, the Jim Brown.
Yes. Was Jimmy Brown, known as the Horn Man, father of Sleepy Brown of Outkast.
Yes, y'all know Outkast, Sleepy Brown. She likes the way you move. Ba-ba-da. Yeah, that's Sleepy. And if you want to be a part of the Tampa Bay Breakfast Club, Kiana can call you too.
Oh no! Listen, Kiana not doing too much calling. If you want to be a part of the Tampa Bay Breakfast Club, you need to call Kiana. I'm just gonna let you know. I'm gonna be 100 with you. You need to call.
This is not acceptable.
Yeah, no. I don't typically do the calling, but you know, for special people.
And can you take the
I got this. This is what happened when you got to call the people.
Okay, well, since why we call it, big shouts out to the Easter Day Party, the second annual Easter Basket Giveaway, April 19th from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. IPLA 1900 20th Street South, St. Pete, Florida.
Hello. Calling for Jimmy Brown. Okay, thank you.
All the information, right?
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead. Finish your introduction about what's going on this weekend. Jabbar.
Okay, this weekend we got Easter, and we're giving away a lot of Easter baskets starting on the 19th. There's gonna be Easter giveaway. I'm gonna open the file back up, and it is gonna be going on. Big Shot one franchise putting together a great event for the second year in a row. Big shots out to Trees. They putting together a big one as well. Easter usually is a big thing in the Black community, especially here in St. Pete.
And then not only is Easter a big thing, it's also 420. So there's gonna be two big things kind of going on.
It'll be all right. 1912th Street, South St. Pete, Florida. Happening April 19th, 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Free haircuts, all kinds of good stuff gonna be going on. Basket giveaways. Y'all make sure y'all pull up. And Jim Brown ain't picked up the phone yet. Jim, talk to you, man. Oh yeah, never again. Never ever ever again. Yes, thank y'all
So,
so
Auntie
much.
Betty, you've been here all week. How are you enjoying Florida?
Well, one of the things I'm very concerned about
Okay.
is the whole issue of the right to self-determination.
Yeah.
The right to define yourself.
Mm.
And one of the principles that I'm hoping people will understand we got from Ghana is something called Sankofa.
Mm-hmm.
Go back and
Yeah,
touch
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
The right to understand your past to help you improve
No
your future.
Yeah, yeah.
And no tree can stand without roots.
Mm-hmm.
And so our roots are not necessarily in this country. Just as the roots of the people they call the Cree or the Mohegans or the Algonquins, their roots are not in Europe. Their roots are here. Their roots were here before the people known as Europeans came here. And so just as they have the right to talk about their past
Yes,
and to remember their past,
yeah.
all peoples have the right to do this. And I am concerned with the attempt in Florida to stop people from
having
standing
rights.
on
Yeah.
their past,
Yeah.
no matter what that past is.
Yeah.
And those people who do not understand history are sometimes doomed
To
repeat
yeah,
the
yeah.
negative aspects of their history.
Yes.
And one of the reasons why I'm mentioning this is because one of the strengths of this culture in Florida is the struggle to be free
The rebellion.
by any means necessary. And you cannot, even by destroying burial grounds, erase that history.
Yeah.
And it is not fair to your children not to let them know that they were not born of a criminal class.
Yes.
Their people came here because they had skills.
And I like that.
All right.
You say we wasn't born of a criminal class. We wasn't like how some of the pilgrims were.
That's right.
You know, released from prison.
Yes,
but these people were
exactly.
the smart ones. These was what they were looking for. Who can do this? Who can do that? Oh yeah, come on,
Yes.
bring them. Yeah.
All right. So within that context, the other thing I would like people in Florida to understand, you are standing on a history that insisted on the right to human rights, the right to define yourself, to express yourself, and to be yourself. And
That's
so
it. That's it.
you're not asking anyone to be who you are, and they don't have the right to insist that you be like them. Okay, because all cultures are equal before the universe, whatever your belief is. And that is why I'm hoping that the parents and the communities in Florida will learn about the history, will learn about what Frederick Douglass said, the whole history of Frederick Douglass, and how he learned how to read.
Yeah.
All right. And when it was understood that he knew how to read, he became a danger to the people who
Because he
owned
could
him.
read.
Because he could read. Now that's a history that you have to share with your children that are coming. And no school system has the right to deny you the knowledge of Frederick Douglass or the knowledge of Harriet Tubman
Well,
or
that's
the knowledge of any of the people who came out of that history that believed being human was more than just work. Work does not define your humanity, but what you give back to your culture, what you give back to your community.
Yeah.
That's what defines.
And you know, we look at it because you know we're here in the state of Florida was battling with our governor who you know basically took Black history out of the school system or wanted to.
But you don't have a history if you remove any group. From history.
This is true.
You don't have American history. So in the act of trying to determine what part of American history can be taught, he is distorting American history. And nobody has the right to distort American history or the legacy of all the peoples who came here and made that history.
Yes.
And I think it is the obligation of all people, especially the religious elements in this community, to stand up for the truth of history. And I always say, you don't have to call it Black history. I have to tell you, I'm very arrogant I know history. I've studied history. You don't have to call it Black history.
Yeah.
If you just teach
History.
100% history,
Yeah.
Africans are all over it.
Yeah.
Go all the way back to Rome. We are there.
I think
Go all the way back to the beginnings of the world. We are there.
I think that's what they want to erase, and they don't want us to remember that we are all over history.
I mean, let's be honest. America is only what, 400 years old?
Mm-hmm.
Egypt is 4,000 years old.
We're really babies,
and we come out of that civilization.
Mm-hmm.
We don't come from this civilization. Our civilization existed 4,000 years before the people who call themselves the colonialists that came and captured this continent. And so you cannot just call it Black history. You have to call it world history. And you don't have to say Black. The Sphinx, the statues in Europe upset Napoleon so much. He broke off all the noses because the noses look like our noses.
Right.
Yes.
So I don't believe in Black history. Teach world history, and Black people are all over it.
I like that, which makes it even better because, like, if you teach again world history, you're not excluding anybody. But if
Just
you
tell
put
the
a name,
truth of
right? But
history.
when you put a name on it and you say Black history, then why y'all have to be different? Why y'all get this? And then again, this is how you divide a group of people: is you give it a name and you label it. So then that's it.
Just call it human history, and don't leave anybody out.
Right.
And tell the truth of what everybody did.
But you know, the truth, when telling the truth, you have to tell your truth too. Right. And if you put everybody in the history, then you cannot tell the lies and the stories that you want to be told to paint a pretty picture when it's really ugly.
I like it. I like it. I like it.
You know, and so while we're talking about that, you know, yesterday there was a shooting in Tallahassee at Florida State University. A 20-year-old guy ended up killing 2 people. I'm not sure about the injuries.
Yeah. It was a devastating day yesterday for Florida State family and friends.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And the guy who did it, and you know, we got people that's actually up there in the like we can touch them. You know, this is real families up there that we actually know. So it hits different when you know the children that's there. Give me 1 second, Mr. Jim Brown. We're gonna be right with you. And so call, check in, prayers go out there, and we'll revisit this conversation. I do have Mr. Jimmy Brown on the phone, who will be performing at the Heritage Festival.
Yes.
Tomorrow, next weekend.
27.
Yes. How are you doing this morning?
Oh, everything is going very well.
Okay.
Very well.
And so, and you were raised in Savannah, correct? And you're the second funk band out of Atlanta?
That's right. My home is Savannah, Georgia, and the second group actually came out of Atlanta.
Okay.
The first group was Ripple, and that's the group Ola A, which I have with me, which is Curtis Reynolds. That's right. That's Curtis Reynolds on it. Tell him hello, Curtis. Hey, hello, everybody. How you doing?
Hello. Oh, we have somebody else. Go ahead.
Welcome to the Tampa Bay Breakfast Club. How you doing today?
Fantastic stuff.
Yes.
Now,
sir.
where are y'all at right now? Because we like to tell the audience where you calling from.
Okay, we're calling from Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the ATL.
Y'all up the street?
Yeah.
So
that's true.
How y'all feel about the Heritage Festival and the upcoming event?
Man, I'm very excited about it, being there, number one, and having Brick there, you know, it's going to be a great thing, man. That's going to be on fire. I'm telling you that, we're going to burn you.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
Yes. Now, how did you get connected with the Heritage Festival?
Well, actually, we got through that. That's through our manager, Juna.
Uh-huh.
You know, Juna connected us with that job. So, you know, when we heard about that, I said, oh, man, that's going to be great, you know, to be in front of all those people and having Brick back out there again.
And now, what can the people expect? Like, what are some of the hits that y'all gonna be singing when y'all set that stage on fire?
Well, first of all, Daz. Daz, disco jazz. Come on and do your thing. Ain't gonna hurt nobody. Ain't gonna hurt nobody. They get on. I know you remember that one. Yeah, and our Doozy. We all those songs. We'll have some fire. When we don't want to sit down, we want to get out.
Cause it sounds like this gonna be an old school night.
Come on.
You get out there, love the make you dance, feel good music, have no worries in the world type of day, and that's what it sounds like on that Saturday night when y'all hit the stage. If you was upset, you can't be upset once you hit. Ain't no. Yeah, go ahead.
That's right. To get on down tonight.
Only got 30 minutes, so we can't even scratch the surface of what we usually do. By the time we get going, we got to get off the stage.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you know what?
That's
because I do events, and y'all saying like 30 minutes, but 30 minutes is a good time.
No, it's
but
not.
when you
got that phone.
No, but it is a good time but what you look at is that like you have so many hits, you can go on.
That's right.
A lot of times when I book people, if I tell them 30 minutes, they scratching their head. And like, what we gonna do for 30 minutes?
Well, the main thing is giving the people the hits, the songs that they know. When you go on stage, you say "Hola, hola." Everybody knows "Hola, hola."
Yes.
So when you go on, like you said, I think we probably wind up doing about 5 songs, and that'll give us a good 30 minutes. You know what I mean? So we can jam everybody right in that time.
And y'all a live band. So it's different when you got like the horns and everything, because you can vibe out with the people.
That's it. Because I'm playing the horns and Curtis playing keyboards and everything, and it's a wonderful thing. It's gonna be really nice.
Now, do you know what time your set is on that Saturday? Did they already give you a time set so the people know what time to expect you?
I really don't know what time at all. Yeah, Judah would actually know.
Okay.
What time we go on. But right now, I really can't tell you exactly what time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm about quite sure. The way I'm looking at it, we'll be near the beginning of the show. You know what I mean? Because I think on this thing, it's going to be a lot of rap artists on there, and we'll really, I think the band, we'll be the band on there. So I think
that's the one that got Bonnie James and all of them.
It'll be near the top. Yeah, it'll be near the top, I'm thinking.
He probably be said, well, because I know that on Saturday they're gonna have some local artists that will come in and set the stage on fire before y'all get on there, and that starts around 1:00. Thinking about it and not putting y'all on the spot, it ends at 9. Y'all will probably be somewhere around like the 6:30, 7 o'clock area. Like in my mind, kind of thinking about it. If I was that's where I would put y'all, and kind of going down the line. So you ain't gonna be there at 1. I know that. No, I do know that for sure because they said the local artists will come on first. David was just on the line prior. He did.
Yeah.
You know what, Mr. Edmund? Now, if you had to leave the people with anything before we hang up, what would you like to tell them?
I want to tell everybody to make sure you come out because it ain't gonna hurt nobody to get on down. Okay, we want you to come out and get on down that night. So we're looking for you.
That's right.
All right. Well, it was nice talking to y'all. I can't wait to see y'all next weekend. And y'all have a blessed day today.
You sure will.
All right.
One of the things I like about that's intergenerational music.
Yes.
That the whole family of generations can participate in. Everybody relates to that funk. And I mean, that's exactly.
Because soon you hear it like.
Yes. That brings the generations together.
It's feel good music.
Yeah, yes.
You know, like you can feel it in your soul. Like new music to me. Now there is some new music that kind of feel good, but I be somewhat lost in some of it. I'm not gonna lie. And I love music.
Yes.
I love all genre of music. They talk about me all the time because if you get in my car, you just don't know what you're gonna listen to.
Yeah. But this music is all over the world. It is all over the world, and all kinds of people. No matter where you are in the world, when you start playing this generation's music, everybody moves. So
it does.
It's good to open up a program,
and that's how powerful music is.
Yes,
you know, you don't even have to speak the language to know what they're saying.
Yes, and that's also the power of the culture that created it.
Right.
All right. All right. Enough said.
Listen. And it was taken. So before the caller had called, we were talking about the sad shooting that happened in Florida State.
FSU,
yes. And off the air, we were just talking how it's handled differently. Like you see where Carmelo Anthony, who was basically, from our information, was bullied and attacked by these twins, and the news is everywhere when he defended himself and killed one of the twins, and he's locked up and he's painted as this monster. And then now we have this other young guy who intentionally went out to harm people, and the news is totally different. It is handled delicately and with care
and compassion for the family.
And
they are not criminalized.
No, they're not.
They're not demonized. And unfortunately, this has been the tradition in this country with people who do not look like them. Not just Africans, but people who come from Asia. People whose religions are different from them. The other. The concept of the other is always criminalized in this country.
Yes.
And that's not a sign of civilization. A sign of civilization is just the opposite. A sign of civilization recognizes that there is just one human species.
Right.
Okay. But unfortunately, even at this time in our history, we have not been able to rise to the level of real civilization.
And you know what you want to look at, and when I look at these two cases, they are, because they're going to go through a jury, right? And they're going to be judged, all of them. And the way that you set it up, you're already giving the jury the picture that you want to paint for each one of these boys.
Exactly.
Right. So that when they are going to be tried, that you get one with compassion, and then you have the other one that's going to be with hate.
Always when it is not, when it is a child of European extraction, and there is something that is anti this society, it is portrayed as you must have compassion because he needs mental health. When the children who are not of color have fentanyl problems, they deserve treatment. When the children who do have melanin have any kind of problem with the substance abuse, they are criminal.
Yes.
All right. So this grows out of the history of this country and the way the first settlers reacted to people who were different from them when they first landed on these shores. This is why it's important to tell the truth of history and put everybody's story in history so that you do not develop and demonize any culture.
Right. And I think that's what we ask for all the time.
Yes.
And then you get it twisted when we're asking for our rights or just to be treated equally, then we are labeled as the racist.
Or the person who getting out of line when you standing up and like having self-determination.
Yes.
It's almost looked at as rebellion or revolutionary for us to have self-determination.
Even a tree, who were the first colonizers on this planet, had the right to self-determination. And so you mean to tell me a tree can grow a certain way and we cannot raise our children a certain way? And the other thing that disturbs me about the situation yesterday is that what kind of culture is producing young people who are either constantly bullying each other to the point that somebody feels they have to go out and
shoot
pardon this phrase,
Yeah.
choose the final solution.
Mhm.
Why was not this young person able to find someone that they could relate to help them through this crisis, to help them come up with another solution other than that of violence? And so when you look at your culture, you're really judging yourself. You should not be judging the children.
And you look at it, and so while we're talking about the culture, you know, we hear black on black crime.
Yes.
Right. Which we know that really that's just a term they made up to, again, demonize.
Yeah.
When you look at it, in every culture, there is white on white crime, Asian on Asian crime. And we know wherever you cultivate at or where you at, you have more violence in that area.
Well, the other thing that concerns me is if you look at the root of crime anywhere, wherever people have unequal economic opportunity, they're going to create their own economic opportunities.
That's right.
Because all living things strive to live.
Right.
And they will live under whatever circumstances you force them to live. They will just not automatically choose death. It's called self-determination.
Nobody wants to come here and just leave, typically.
That's right. So
not unless they program
and
that
if
way.
you go to Scotland, you will see who are the Scottish poor oppressing. They're oppressing other Scottish poor.
Yeah.
Okay. And you go to Ireland, who are the people who are the criminals in Ireland, and who are they preying on? I mean, the history of the Kennedys when they came here, they were the drug pushers of that era, which was alcohol. Who did they sell the alcohol to? Where did the first Kennedy get all his wealth? He sold his particular drug of that time, which was alcohol, to his own people. Okay. You need to study you need to look at the wealth of the Kennedys to understand this. All right. And nobody wants to look at the wealth of the Rockefellers and how much they were hated. They were hated so much because of their oppression of their own when they first started building their empire, that people would not even accept charity from them. Starving people wouldn't take a dime from them.
Now that's crazy.
Okay.
When,
but if you don't know history, and if you don't know everybody's history, then you don't know that all human beings will seek to survive by any means necessary. And this is what some people label criminal enterprise. But if you don't want criminal enterprise, then you should have an equal educational foundation for all oppressed people in your culture, in your society. And that's what the people they call slaves fought for. Coming out of the Black Reconstruction, one of the first laws they put on the books was to institutionalize free public access to education for all. That came out of our ancestors because they understood, as Frederick Douglass constantly said, education and slavery are incompatible. And so now I'm not nervous about the rise of the attempt to dismantle the federal educational structure in this country, because originally we had state schools. But what the people who were coming out of captivity insisted on is that within each community, those parents had the ultimate say-so in that education. So it is up to Black people once again to assert their rights in their schools. Your tax base is funding these schools. Your tax base is paying for the mayor. The mayor should be accountable to you and not the other way around.
Wow. Yes, that's powerful. And I think when you talk about, like, you know, who accountable to us, like especially politically, we have to we got to have an agenda. I think what the problem is, it's not a clear agenda, so they can play between us and around us, because you didn't tell me you wanted that. I didn't know that. You know,
one of my colleagues, Sister Tekla Johnson, out of Tennessee, she said, what people of African American descent in this country, we need now more than ever to come up with our own think tank solutions to the public education budget. And let's be clear, every citizen has a certain amount of wealth coming back to them. that they are paying into the federal government, be it the federal government or the state government. And the state government has to be accountable to how they are spending your money. And they do not have the right to take one community of people and force you to accept their culture. You have the right to self-determination for yourself and for your children. And part of that self-determination is the truth of history. And again, all I can say is put everything back in history. Tell all of history. Don't call it black. Don't call it white. Just call it history.
And then you get
and
it
then
all.
you get it all. But you see, if you have a concept of superiority, history will not justify that theory. It will not justify race-based superiority. That is not science, and it cannot be justified. And that's why you have people who will bully people. That's to believing what they want you to
They
believe.
do. You do, and I think that was kind of like the big thing when they tried to take the history, the Black history out of here in the state of Florida. The thing is that it made their children feel bad.
Yes.
Yep.
Was part of it. The Ruby Bridge story, when they were talking about that, and they played the bridges, and they played the video of the movie. And one of the young white girls that was in school, she went back home and was like, she felt bad for how she was treated. And then the mother came and protested about the video because she didn't like how her daughter was feeling. But forget about Ruby, how she felt, and she had to deal with it.
My response to that as an educator is education should always be taught from the point of the solution to the problem. And as Jeremy Bentham, the philosopher, said, the only solution to the problem is the solution to the problem. And it's amazing to me that European Americans who claim they come from a Christian culture do not want to obey the main tenet of Christianity, which is to speak truth. Now, if truth is good enough for that deity that you worship, it should be good enough for the people who worship that deity. We did not make this history. But the only way you can solve the problems of history is to speak truth to history.
This is true, but when you don't want to solve the problem.
Then the other issue is, as human beings, and I know Christianity has taught many of us that, you always have the power to choose. People are very fond of saying that their deity gives you the right to choose good over evil.
Power choice.
So the answer to that young lady that feels bad is that she has the power not to be like that. And the lesson should be taught from that point of view. The reason we teach history is so that those things that are not good in history will not be perpetuated.
And I think when you're like looking for knowledge and you're learning stuff, it should stir something up in you.
Yes.
You know, when you are trying to evolve into a better person, you should find stuff. Everything that you learn don't make you feel good. And you need to feel those bad things and feel yucky inside so that you know not to repeat it. And so, like, if you always give all the great stuff that happened and ignore the bad, you're going to continue on the path that you were going on before. And so sometimes you need to veer off. Everything ain't all bad and everything ain't all good, but you got to mix it in so you'll know that you can make those changes. So we talked about like the generation of kids that's coming in, the parents, and how we're raising, and like, you know, we kind of went so far left with our children because we didn't want to be we didn't want to be like our parents.
Right? I don't even know if I would call it left, because unfortunately, let's face it, the culture that we are looking at grew out of slavery. And so we were moving.
Good morning, love.
In the concept of emancipation. And what emancipation means. And I would like to use the tragedy that happened yesterday. Why are so many young males who happen to be Europeans opting for mass slaughter of their own people? Why are so many young people in this country who happen to be European Americans choosing fentanyl. This country is not telling the truth about those statistics. As early as 12 ODing on fentanyl. That's an indictment of the culture. Obviously, they must be feeling bad, and they don't need to learn about Black history to make them feel bad. These children are not taking fentanyl because they are learning about Black history. These children are taking fentanyl because they are in America, and all of America needs to start trying to figure out what's making their children feel bad. It is not Black people learning about their history.
Heavy. Heavy. Because I mean, you speaking to how things that were done in the past affecting the future, like a Sankofa like type thing. Because I think a lot of this happens because people think they're immune or have some type of immunity to the consequences of this stuff.
It's just kind of like when you sweep it under the rug.
Exactly.
Eventually,
And that's what I would say.
It's a lump on the rug, and so there's gonna be a stumble.
And the far right needs to the churches that they call the mega churches.
Yeah.
Okay, which they say are the driving force behind what Trump is doing to dismantle the public education system. The people who are part of that struggle, they need to analyze what form of Christianity they are interpreting for their young people, because the statistics for their young people are really tragic.
Yeah.
And it was this way way before COVID, but COVID has escalated this.
But maybe that, like they say, they're so busy looking at the plight of us that they can't see their own plight or they don't see what's being done to them. But I had a question, right? Because this all feel like Agenda 2025, the plan that they were coming out with. What is your thoughts on that?
It will. You see, the Agenda 2025 is a reaction to the struggle for human rights. It wasn't the struggle for civil rights.
Yeah.
It was the struggle for human rights. And the interesting thing about that is you have to understand the role of Christianity in the very foundation of this country. The role of Christianity was that none of us who were not British were human. We were all different versions of the other. And so they are trying to take this definition of what it means to be human back to that generation.
I see it.
And that interpretation of their version of Christianity.
Right. You see when we talked about, and I'm gonna go back to just your right for women's rights to choose. Right. And you saw the divide of the country when the election came up about the rights for women to choose to do what they wanted to do with their body, right? And what I saw is it also divided our community more than anything else, because you would listen to my heavy Christians go in and be like, that's not godlike. Or, and when we're looking at just basic rights, and like y'all heard me say, God gave us the right to choose which path we go on. Why would we take that choice from anybody else? And so I saw this and it became very judgy. If you went this way, you was deemed as a person, and if you went that way, you was deemed as a person, and it made us look down on each other. And honestly, you can choose however you want to choose, but I don't think we should force that on anybody else.
I would like to put it within the context of what we call the social welfare state. When you talk about the mega 2025 agenda, it is to dismantle the social welfare state. The problem I have with that is I don't understand anyone that would worship a deity that says that 1% of the country can have 90% of the wealth, that 1% of any group can have all 9 chairs, and the other 90% has only 1 chair. And I don't believe that there is any religion that really justifies that. But in effect, this is what is happening. You're going to insist that people have to have children, but you are not going to insist that you feed those children. You are not going to insist that they have preventative health care, not just health care when something happens, but a healthcare system that prevents certain diseases that in the rest of the world are being wiped out. So that's my problem with the Mega 2025 people. Secondly, if we talk in terms of the history of how Africans are treated in this country, what we have to understand is that all of the science of women's health grew out of the torture of African women. The doctor that is associated with gynecology in this country experimented without any form of pain relief on African women, operated on them to see how our bodies were shaped and what form of birth we were having. They tortured African women, and that produced the science of gynecology. So to me, to allow people to talk in terms of judging women when you don't take responsibility for how one group of women were treated versus another group of women is the worst kind of hypocrisy. And I do not understand a religion that would allow that. I don't understand a religion that in the wealthiest country in the world has the worst nutrition program for those children. And it is not me that's saying this. It is the World Health Organization that has talked about that. Americans at this particular time, the statistic on food insecurity are horrific. One of the statistics says nearly 28 million adults nationwide, 12.5% of the adult population are living in homes where there is sometimes not enough to eat to last the week. Now, what is the wealthiest country in the world doing, insisting that you have more children when you have statistics like this? To me, I think that is very judgmental of the poor.
Right.
The other thing I have a problem with is that in most Western societies, countries in the Western world, they have a minimum wage that enables all of their workers to provide for their children. This is one of the countries where you don't.
I'm shaking my head, yes, and they can't see me, but you're so right. So like when you're saying when you're forcing one thing, you need to be doing another, right? And then so what's happening is we're not seeing the other.
We're not seeing the other.
We're not seeing the other, but then you see the force, and then when you see it, you want to complain. And then not only when you have the kids, then now they're problems, and now they're in prisons, and now they're working free for you.
Excellent.
You know what I mean? So you got to think of the whole scheme of things when you're looking at why people are forcing people to do stuff, and because there's always two sides of the pancake, right? You look at it, yes, you know, beautiful children are beautiful things, but we also know that we do live in a country where our kids are being sent to prison at like 10, 12 years old in a lot of these states, and then they get free labor out of these children. And then even when they're adults, the black men, you see how they're being arrested and demonized. We just seen it with the two people. There was something that happened with these two youth and how they are treated different.
And I want to speak to that in terms of the mega. The whole purpose of what allegedly the agenda is for Trump at this time grows out of the Christian right. What kind of Christianity does not allow people to change? Does not allow for forgiveness. Okay, I thought that was the whole purpose of the second coming of what they call Christ. Okay, but all I see coming from the mega is judgment and death. And I don't see that as the original Christianity. And I think anyone that would allow people like this to determine their agenda is being misled and misguided. And if a white child is going to feel bad about anything, they should feel bad about an agenda that will make them feel bad because they were born female with a vagina.
That caught you off guard. What you got to say? You've been real quiet, Mr.
No, I haven't. I think it is a lot of work that we got to do in our community because we've been attacked on so many different fronts all the way back since the first colonial, excursion into America. And I think we're still going through it right now. And even more so with this new Trump administration, in the 2020 plan, we gotta do some things for ourselves. I think they're gonna cut a lot of programming. They're gonna have us with our back against the wall.
But the reality is the working class is the largest group in this country.
Yep.
And the working class just has
Regular
to
people,
call
yeah.
has to call a general strike and shut the country down. And it's over for the 1%. And that's where I think we're going to go. And I'm not worried about the people of Florida because they do have a history of rebellion. And the interesting thing about a lot of the rebellions in Florida is they were not just a part of the Africans. The people that this country called Indians joined in those rebellions for freedom. The people who were new colonials coming from Europe joined in that rebellion. In America, one of the first collaborations between African women and white women was the movement for abolition. One of the first collaborations, successful, because they ended chattel slavery. So I'm not worried. And Florida was at the top of this rebellion.
Woohoo!
So I think we have a great deal of potential. And that young girl that feels bad about what was done to people of African descent, someone should have told her about all the European women who came from the north to the south to participate in making sure that African children had public education and learned how to read so that
But
they
you
could
know
never
what?
be chattel slavery again.
You know what it is too, and we got to end because we're at we got 1 minute. Is that when history is taken out, right? Selected. But what happened is when the selection is taken out, they select other stuff that they need as well.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so when you're trying to erase a part of history, you can't tell the positive part either.
That's right.
You know, and
That's
so when you can't rebuttal something that you don't know.
Right.
So you look when the child came home and was able to say, "This is how I felt." The mother had no rebuttal
because she didn't know history.
There you go.
She didn't know that little girl. I mean, Harriet Tubman didn't do it all by herself.
But when you're trying to erase
and it
Harriet
was
Tubman,
the white Christians in America that formed the positive relationship with the Underground Railroad. All right. So if you don't want to tell that history, then you're going to feel bad.
Because you can't tell that part of the history.
Because you can't tell that part of it either. So I'm saying to the people of Florida, rise up, take back your public schools, put yourselves back in the public schools, learn how the budget works. Do not allow any party, Democrat or Republican, control the budget that's coming from your tax dollars. You control. Learn the budget.
Your final thoughts, Mr. Edmond? It's 9 o'clock.
Okay. Well, there's more that need to be done and need to be said.
All right.
And our sympathies go out to the family.
Yes.
Both of all the children who were left yesterday too soon. At the peak of their promise.
Yeah.
Peak of their promise.
The peak of their promise.
Yes. And listen, be the change you want to be. See, write down those 5 things. Stay tuned for Sister Hugh.
Lose shoes and shout all around the room.
And this has been the Tampa Bay Breakfast Club. I am Kiana.
And one and only Mr. Edmond.
And we are out. We'll catch y'all on Monday.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Thank you for coming.
WUJM, St. Petersburg. 99 Gems.